Now, trying to catch up with the ad hoc committee, I'm going to start with the testimony of our national commissioner, the only general that we have, Fanny Masemola. First, I will compare his first appearance and his second appearance. So, the national commissioner on the first appearance, I was not impressed. I was not. You can go back in my recordings and hear what I had to say. But I somehow now, I feel like I need to take back some of those words. But I'm still on the fence. The national commissioner's first appearance, he was more cautious, more bureaucratic, more diffusive kind of, more institutional explainer, less command presence. He often sounded like he was managing complexity than owning the moment. Even when talking about serious dysfunction, he kept things broad and neutral and measured. On his second appearance, he was more direct, more defensive of his authority, more willing to contradict others openly, more willing to sound wronged, more willing to sound like the head of the SAPS. In the later appearance, he is clearly no longer just briefing the committee. He is answering back to the record after hearing other witnesses. In his second appearance, he sounds more like someone asserting command over subordinates and process. For example, when he was asked about General Vuma's testimony, he just said, you know what, I think I've been very lenient with him. He is now thinking of actually making sure that the disciplinary process against General Vuma, they actually go through, even if she is on retirement. So I felt like, no, he was disrespected and he is not taking it. I felt like, he was just more of a leader. In other words, General Masemola is not exactly aggressive in his second appearance. I don't think that is his personality. In the sense of being wild or uncontrolled, he is more combative, more anchored, and more executive. I think I like the second appearance of Masemola much better than all the other appearances. The National Commissioner seems to have understood the risk environment before he fully understood the alleged network behind it. In other words, even before the Matlala phone evidence sharpened the picture, he was already behaving as if the way the PKTT was being dismantled could expose investigations to interference. That is classic institutional gatekeeping. Maybe not heroic, like General Mkwananzi, maybe not absolute, but still he did protect the SAPS from complete capture by the organized crime. Masemola appears to have gate-kept SAPS from deeper state capture style interference, but in a controlled, bureaucratic way, not in an openly defiant way. He's not like General Mkwananzi. We understand that. And we appreciate that there's two different personalities in the executive. So they can actually cover each other's weaknesses I'm fine with it. As I reflect back on the National Commissioner, where he looks strongest, because he did not simply rubber stamp the minister's version of disbandment. He resisted the immediate part, kept the PKTT working while he was away, proposed a managed wind down, and tried to preserve docket control rather than allow a chaotic return to station level. In that sense, he was not surrendering in full. He was trying to slow, shape, and contain the damage. But I hope you stay with me because there's this something in me that I have a problem with the National Commission, but I don't want to be as harsh as I was last time. I am trying to reflect constructively. So hang in there with me. Where the National Commissioner looks the weakest because he never seems to cross the line into outright refusal. Even after he met the president on February 1st or 2nd, his position remained, if it must happen, let it happen as a phased wind down. He told the president exactly that and later kept advancing that same model. Even when pressed, he frames the winding down approach as the smart way of disagreeing, which sounds tactical and political, but also admits that he had already moved onto the implementation terrain. In closing, Masemola did not fully submit to the minister's directive, but he also never crossed into the outright refusal. Instead, he occupied a narrow middle ground, resisting the method, immediate disbandment, while quietly conceding the outcome that the PKTT would ultimately be dissolved. This winding down approach was a form of bureaucratic resistance, slowing the process, protecting dockets, and preserving operational integrity. But it also revealed a key leadership tension. This is where I have a problem. If he believed the directive was flawed, unexplained, and even potentially dangerous, why implement it at all? The record shows a shift from should this happen to how should it happen, because the core justification was never established. In that sense, Masemola did not accept the minister's method, but he may have accepted the minister's victory. He gave in. That is why this issue reflects ambiguously in his leadership. I am not sure what his legacy is going to be. I'm confident that he's going to finish his term, but I'm not sure what his legacy is going to be in the future when we look back. Anyway, enough of my rambling. Please see you in the comments.